Good morning.
Good morning. Today's topic, how or even if you're able to find an agent that'll work with investors. Is that possible?
If it's a good word.
It's a good topic today. It's timely. Things are changing in the market right now, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. And we'll be back in
45 seconds.
Okay. Morning, guys. Welcome to this episode of Go Talk.
Hello.
Guys, today, well, a little bit. We've been busy.
Yeah.
Doing a bunch of stuff. Today, actually, we rounded up a few. I don't know what some people would say, or I don't know what's a good term, that they don't exist, like mermaids or something like
Leprechauns
that. Leprechauns. Yeah, that's it. Leprechauns. Agents that will actually work with investors. And we're going to have a conversation with some of those guys.
I wish one of them would move here.
One of them would move. Oh, wouldn't that be amazing?
I know.
One of them moved here. We actually had to go out of town to find an agent to work with us. Can you believe it? Because we're great. But yeah, it's just not happening. If you guys are joining us here this morning, say good morning. Let us know where you are, who you are. We'd love to say hello. But we're not going to waste a bunch of time. We've got some of these guys out here. We're going to bring them in.
We got visitors today.
We have visitors. We do. We actually have a panel. Can you believe we rounded up a few agents who actually said that they would work with investors? So we're going to bring those guys in.
All right.
Here, if we can. Let's see. We'll get started. Okay, here we go. Morning, guys.
Morning.
Morning.
All right, awesome. All right, listen, these guys are all experienced agents and brokers, experienced investors, and we're just going to let them introduce themselves, tell everybody who they are, where they are, and if you're lucky enough to be in their market, this is somebody you can reach out to today. So let's get started. That's where we'll start. I don't know if everybody sees things the same way I do. We'll just operate like a clock here today. Marcia, you're the first one up here at 1 o'clock. Let's get going. Tell us about yourself.
All right. I'm Marcia Grant with United Realty Group in South Florida. That's pretty much Port St. Lucie, Palm Beach County, Broward County, and Miami-Dade County.
Okay.
I'm able and willing to work with investors. I'm primarily in the West Palm Beach area. Okay. So if you're looking for investment property or whatever subject to properties in Palm Beach, I'm your lady.
All right, awesome.
Great having you here.
Yeah, it sure is. All right, Courtney, next.
Yeah, hi, I'm Courtney Jones, and I'm in the Phoenix, Arizona area, Gilbert specifically, a suburb of Phoenix. I've been investing for 33 years, and I've done all creative financing. I've never gotten a bank loan for a property. And at one time, we had a portfolio of over 1,000 doors, kind of getting older, so slowing that down a little bit. But the really good news is that I'm currently, I have a team of about 10 agents in the Phoenix area that I'm teaching and helping them to learn this. So the good news is more and more people are getting educated on it. And I think it'll be easier moving fast forward a little bit to find agents. But I'm happy to be here to tell people a little bit of ideas on how to find those people.
All right, awesome. Thanks. Well, gosh, she's training a whole crew to get out here and work with us. That's amazing. All right, great. Craig.
Hey, thanks for having us on today. Craig Snyder. I'm down in Virginia Beach, Virginia, Norfolk, Hampton Roads area. My wife, Alex, and I are a licensed team down here. Little background on us, career Navy fighter guy, flew airplanes, got out, went to the airlines, started investing. That was back 2018, 2019, started buying some long-term rentals and things like that. We, on the other hand, started with bank loans, 25% down, the traditional way, nice and slow. And that's how we started doing some other things. I started ripping through real estate agents because I was very difficult on them. I didn't mean to be. It's just the nature of the beast. And I realized that when a real estate agent is ghosting you, you're probably being a bad client, right? And so I realized I needed to be better. So I just went and got licensed. Next thing you know, I fell into clients, and my first couple clients were all investors, just like me, pilots and guys I flew with in the Navy. And so started doing that. We've done a handful of deals. We do not have 1,000 doors. Our family, we have 6. And half of those are owned by our son, who is only 18 years old, got his first deal, sourced it himself at 14. He's even done a sub-2 deal himself and deals with hard money lenders. He negotiates with, he's incredible. But, enough about him. We work with investors and invest ourselves. So that's what we do.
That's awesome. We've got a good mix here. We got somebody in Florida, somebody in Arizona, somebody in Virginia Beach. So, and between that, I can tell you, I know these guys, 2 of them very well. And not only do they do the stuff in their area, they know people all over the country that do this stuff. So if they can't help you, they can put you in touch probably with somebody that can. Appreciate you guys just so much for being here today and sharing some time with us. So getting into this thing, I'll tell you guys a little bit of. Now, first of all, Jodi has been a broker for several years.
Not currently.
Not currently. So she's got a ton of experience in that stuff too. Me, I've never had a license, and learned very early in my career, right or wrong, that most agents don't have a clue, and they're not interested in working with us. They're just not. I thought I was low maintenance. I don't expect my agent to drive me around and show me houses like I'm a typical home buyer. I know how to do the research on my end. But you guys, so I historically have very negative things to say about agents. And unfortunately, our experience when we moved up here a little over a year ago didn't change that opinion. But it's a unique agent that's going to work with us, that has creative finance experience. My understanding of an agent's duty in the beginning was that if I call Courtney and I say, Courtney, I see you have a listing at 123 Oak Street, I would like to make an offer. I've already done a little bit of research. I may know Courtney's clients in foreclosure. I may know that they owe what the house is worth. I probably know all of those things. So I'm confident that my creative finance offer would solve some problems. But most of the time, what I'll hear from Courtney is, oh, I would never present that offer to my client. There's no way they would do that. What you're talking about is illegal. But my understanding was an agent is bound. That's their duty to present all offers that come forward. Is this not the case, guys?
That is the case.
It is, as long as it's in writing, they are required to do it.
Right.
I think the thing that for people to understand is exactly sort of what you just said. There's a lot of people who've had negative experiences with realtors, but the flip side is to be said as well. There's a lot of realtors who've had negative experiences with investors.
Right.
And so with the real estate industry, it's one of those things, realtors only get paid when deals close, and everybody is standing in line to waste their time and to use their time and trying to figure out how to get around paying them. So I think that's part of the issue. And that's obviously what we're going to get into, is how to present your offers in a way that make them see and understand that they're going to get paid. Because really that's what they're in this for. They're not,
And those darn wholesalers, they never closed.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, Courtney, I think you just summed up the entire conversation. We can probably stop this now. Right there.
And I agree with you. I agree. There are shysters everywhere in every industry. Wholesalers that lock up deals without funds to close. They don't have a prayer of closing unless they find a buyer. So let's reverse this thing a little bit. Let's start here. We're talking about finding agents that are open to working with us. How can we as investors be the ideal client that come to you? What can we do?
I got a thought on that. Courtney kind of started to hint at it a little bit there, but one of the big things is you got to realize, assuming that, not all agents really know the creative financing world. Not all agents want to work with investors. They have a bad experience. And a lot of that comes from, just like Courtney said, people don't want to pay them. Right. And so I know that when I present an offer, when I call up an agent who has a listing that I want to make an offer on, one of the first things, that very first conversation, is I make sure I say the words, and I will make sure you get paid, because I want to communicate that up front. And so I'm going to sit there and say, hey, Marcia, so I see you got 1 Main Street. I don't know about your client's position. I know this and this. Do you think they would consider this offer like this? And I will make sure that you get paid above that, right? Or something to that effect. And when you use those words, all of a sudden you become, when William, like said, the perfect client, because you now are presenting an offer that actually could work for that agent. Now, obviously I'm speaking as an agent, but whether you're going direct to a listing agent, that works. And that's one of the biggest things. And I found that when I use those words, and I will make sure you get paid, you can hear the tone change on the phone. Not always. Sometimes I've been told, why the hell would they do that? And usually it's different words. But frequently the tone will change.
Right. I agree with you. And like I said, my beginning experience with agents led me to just go direct to seller. I mean, to be honest with you, if I thought, man, I'm really going to have to swim upstream on this, it's going to be hard. They're going to go to this person and say, don't deal with these people. They're crooks, whatever. So I would go directly. And for years, that's what I did. I would just mail a letter or a postcard, and I would just say, hey, do you need to sell your house? Are you tired of it sitting on the market? Call me today. We tried something a little bit different. We did an experiment a couple of months ago, Jodi and I did, where we picked 15, I think it was 15 properties out of the MLS here that had long days on market. If typical at the time, I think typical days on market were less than 30. And these had been on the market, 60 to 90 or more, which was long. That had little to no equity, that had circumstances, and we called agents directly. And that was our play, Craig. Listen, this house has been on the market for a long time. And my question out of the gate was, what's wrong with it?
Yeah.
Okay. And really, what I found was, asking that question, most of the agents would say, it shows poorly because of this. There's a problem. There's a divorce going on. They would be pretty forthcoming. But in the final analysis, they didn't like a creative finance offer. They just didn't like it. And we only had a couple out of those people that were even willing to talk to their client about it. So obviously, the large percentage of agents, just their broker won't allow it. They haven't been exposed to it. It's just like sellers, really, isn't it? You can contact 100 sellers, 1 or 2 will take your offer. The other ones just aren't going to hear of it. And would you say agents are pretty much the same? It is a unique individual you're looking for. Not all agents are equal.
I thought you were going to share about when we called to tell those 15 agents that we have an offer to make, and how many called.
Yeah, I didn't even get into that part, but we called all of these people. We only, I think, 2 or 3 answered the phone. We got another 1 or 2 callbacks, but and of those few, we had
11 out of 15 didn't even call back, even though we said we want to make an offer.
We want to make an offer, and they didn't even call us back. So we don't even get into that part today about just poor agents in general in a slowing market. So
that's unfortunate.
It really is
not good for anybody.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, here I am saying, I want to, I'm interested in this property. I want to make an offer.
You didn't even say you were an investor, although you probably sounded like it, but you didn't even say that.
most people are going to say, I want to come see the house.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
not going to say, I want to make an offer. So maybe I sounded too much like an investor.
Yeah.
But at least, isn't that warrant a callback?
Yeah.
A little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
But-
For sure.
especially if you didn't say anything other than like, hey, I want to make an offer.
That's all you say.
I'm surprised most agents would sit there and be like, well, you're unrepresented. You know, depending on what state you're in, they
They
might
get
love
both
it.
sides, right? Yeah. For
Yeah,
Sure.
I don't know
know.
what. I don't think you can do that in Florida or California, but we could do that here in Virginia. I
I
think you
think-
can in Arizona.
I feel like you mentioned that too, didn't you? That you can get both
What,
sides. Make that
local?
conversation, but
It's been a couple of months ago, and I'm getting older. I can't remember everything I said, but this was well thought out. This wasn't just something we jumped on one day. We did some research. We did the background on the properties. But to be an ideal client, okay, let's continue on down that road. What can I do to improve my chances of getting a Courtney or Marcia or a Craig on the phone? It ain't that lady on the bill. I'm not sure what that is.
Coming to get you.
Well,
I don't know, but that's a $5 fine right there.
yeah, that's probably the board of realtors in here on us because we're even talking about
going to
this.
get us.
Hey, William, I have a question for you. You said, "Oh, I'm sorry, somebody was talking."
No.
ahead.
A question for you. You said, "How do you, as an investor?" There's a couple of different, digging in, peeling that back a little bit. Are you looking for an agent to help you find deals, like as a buyer's representative, or are you looking to go straight to a listing agent where you've already done the homework? Because I think those are two different approaches.
I want an agent who isn't afraid to present a creative offer in a positive light, and who will, because this is what we find a bunch. They're afraid, and I'll tell you, it may be regional or something. I'm telling you, these people up here, I could talk all day about the experiences that we've had up here, right down to the guy that we work with now having a letter sent to him from the board asking to see our listing agreement. Okay. That was an intimidation tactic by an agent that brought an offer that we had under contract and had on the MLS, and gave him 9 kinds of hell about wholesalers and how they're criminals and everything else. Now, she still showed up to collect her commission on the deal because it closed. But I'm just talking about intimidation tactics. But find an agent that'll work with me and present my offers that are going to be researched. There's going to be a reason. I'm not going to make a sub-2 offer to somebody that owes 10 cents on the dollar on a house and isn't in distress. I mean, there are going to be some factors that are going to make it look apparent that this is something that would help them. But I want an agent that when I call them up and I say, Craig, I want to make an offer on 123 Oak Street. Susie's got it listed, but it's been on the market for 120 days, and they just filed a foreclosure in Benton County on this thing. So,
William, I would say, oh, I'm the listing agent, and Bob and Susie got the house, and I hear what you're saying right now. You've just made me a verbal offer. Would you care to put that into writing, and then maybe I could present that?
And bam, that's okay. That's you though.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's step one though, because a lot of times, a lot of investors I work with, they like, hey, just offer this, and it's a text message or a phone call, usually a text message, and I'm like, guys, that's not good enough in most cases. We need to put pen to paper, because the answer changes when we put pen to paper.
Right.
Because you could say, hey, do you accept this offer? And Jodi, the listing agent, says, no, they're not going to take that. But as soon as you put it in writing and slide it across the electronic table, all of a sudden things change, because I might be able to make this deal happen. And you never know. Things change when they present it to the seller. They go, well, yeah.
See, in our experiment, we even went direct to the listing agent and tried to appeal to their greed gland by saying, we'll make our offer through you so you can collect both sides of the commission. Still didn't seem to work.
Well, I will say this, that there is a lot of times, some folks just don't understand the process, and it can be very confusing. I'm part of some Facebook groups, where you get on there and somebody will say, hey, I just received an offer from somebody and it sounds like this. And you can, this agent breaks it down. You're like, oh, that's a sub 2 offer. Got it. And the number of comments, it'll be 20 to 1 piling on of going, that's illegal, ethics violation, all sorts of stuff on the internet, because people just start piling on about how, you can't do that in our state. And it's getting past that is really hard, and there is no magic phrase or magic bullet, and you might just be like, hey, that is a great deal, I can make this work, and the listing agent just is going to say no to their client, and there's no chance that they're going to accept that, and you just have to accept that that's not going to work for you and move on. I will say that there are a lot of deals out there. If you go, like everybody talks about going to real estate investment clubs and things like that, I tell you, you go to some of those, there are some active agents out there. Like our local club, is run by one of the attorneys, who does sub 2 deals all the time and things like that. And it's, or used to be at least, but you go to one of those places and you can find other like-minded folks. Matter of fact, I've had it before where I have had my phone ring and it's an agent that I met a long time ago at one of those clubs. And he says, hey, I got a deal right over here. These are the terms. Have you got a buyer? And I go, actually, I had a conversation yesterday. Hold on. And I go, hey, dude, I just found you a spot. Here's the terms. What do you think? Done. And it was like, no kidding, 2 phone calls. And we made it happen because we had 2 like-minded people. And we already knew about each other. So we end up in a group, right? Almost like you end up like in a like-minded group. And I will tell you that most of the folks who are in my office may not be part of that mindset. And there's nothing I'm going to say that's going to change that. They just
absolutely. That's a big part of it. I mean, honestly, these brokers are out here telling people it is illegal. A lot of it's just because of the liability aspect of it. They're concerned about the liability. So we've had a fire alarm, by the way. So if I go off, they stopped. That was that sound. If I disappear, I'm running out the stairway. But brokers are telling people about the liability, and agents and telling them that it's illegal. It's getting so much more, now with social media, there's so many more people teaching it. They're not necessarily teaching it the right way. So there's a lot of people doing it incorrectly. And I think exactly what Craig said, one of the best things you can do is find that team to help you educate those agents and those brokers. If you have an attorney going to them saying, hey, I'm doing this, here's how I'm doing it, and here, Mr. Broker, is how you can protect your office. If you have to bring them that as an investor to put that team together, it helps you, because in the long run, you're going to get more business from it, because there's so many people out there who need that, that agent that will work with them. But then it's also going to help you from an investor perspective.
Courtney, you bring up a really good point there. I was, you talked about some people who are doing it wrong. I actually got a phone call one time from a wholesaler. So the wholesaler says, hey, I've got this sub 2 deal, and I'm actually, it was just maybe an email or a text. I don't remember, because I could never get him on the phone. And he says, here's the sub 2 deal. Here's the terms. And I go and I start doing my research, right? I go onto PropStream, start doing some, and I look at the loan and I go, hey, that's a VA loan. And you want to do a sub 2 on a VA loan, and you're marketing this thing as a wholesaler. So I try to get the guy. I'm like, hey, dude, have you talked with the seller about their VA entitlement and what that means? Boom. Would not respond to any phone calls, texts, or emails after that. He just, blocked my number because I was asking a hard question. That if you're, let's face it, there are plenty of people who are sketchy, who like, oh, this is a great deal. I am a sketchy person, right? And I can do this. There are plenty of people who are honest. And unfortunately, people who are investors you can all get lumped in together by people who are in the business because they had one bad experience with this one wholesaler who called and was basically just trying to, I don't want to say steal the property, but he was going to be deceptive with that seller. He was not going to be fully open on what it meant, because he wasn't going to talk to them about their VA entitlement. Otherwise, he would have answered my question. And for anybody who doesn't know, a VA loan for a veteran, you basically have a set amount of entitlement. For simplicity's sake, let's just say you can have only one. Not true, but let's say you could only have one. That's essentially what it amounts to. You have a set amount, and once it's tied up for 30 years, you don't get any more. And so if you sub to that thing long term, it doesn't go away. So imagine somebody starts wholesaling that around and they get it to the wrong person. Now this veteran's been taken advantage of, and everybody just gets a bad opinion. And that's what you're fighting against. I think that's a lot of words there, but we're fighting against bad actors.
Right.
Like one or two. It only has to be one or two, and they ruin it for everybody.
So,
So,
Absolutely.
And that's
We have another guest backstage right now. Do you see that? I don't know if you saw.
You want to bring him in? You made it.
Sam.
Good
Sam.
morning. Good
Morning, Sam.
guys.
How are you?
I'm great. Sorry I came late, sir. I've been running around like a chicken
Oh,
without
we
a
say
head
the
all day.
best for last around here, Sam. Where are you located?
Man, I'm in Wichita, Kansas.
Okay. All right. So we got another part of the country being represented here. Sam works with investors, understands creative finance. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So Sam just joining the conversation here with us. So I hear what you guys are saying. Investors run into bad agents all the time. Agents run into bad investors probably more often than not. And I can imagine, creative finance has exploded here in the last year or two. And you're absolutely right, Courtney and Craig. There are a lot of people teaching it, some people deceptively. I will take a VA loan subject to all day long. And if you followed me for any length of time, Craig, I don't make promises to my seller on when it's going to be paid off. But I'm going to have
you at least tell them what the entitlement
conversation with my VA seller and make sure that he knows if his entitlement is $750,000 and I'm taking over a $300,000 remaining debt subject to indefinitely, then he's only got $450 available to him until this loan's retired. And if he understands that, he should be good to go. Would you agree with that?
But you have to be upfront with that. And I think everybody on this call probably is.
Right.
We're going to be honest with all of our sellers because our reputation is our brand, right? And I don't need a bad reputation. I'm going to be, I blow up deals all the time because I'm like, here's what this means. And, sometimes people are like, well, the number of times I've had a deal, it doesn't matter. I'm glad that you do that, but not everybody else does.
I know 100% what you're talking about. We talked to an investor here, 3 or 4 months ago, Jodi, did we not? He had taken this loan subject to, and now it was in foreclosure.
Yeah.
Right. And he lives here locally. And when I called him, I've got the recording from the call, and I started asking him some questions, and he said, I think we're done with this conversation. It was really interesting, but he's local. And,
I think he just lost track of it. I don't think he was broke.
Yeah.
I think he cured it pretty quickly, but
yeah, he finally did. Yeah, right before the auction, but he got it squared away. So I understand what you're talking about. So back to how we can be obviously agents with any kind of a brand or good reputation. Only want to work with investors that do the same and are likewise. So if I'm an investor and I want to work with agents, like I think I was getting to a point earlier. I'm not calling the agent that's got billboards all over town. They're probably not my huckleberry. Wouldn't you agree?
For sure.
You know how we talk all the time about increasing the chances of getting our creative offers accepted by going after certain sellers. It ain't about the house. It's about the guy in the house. Right. So how do I increase my chances of fewer dials to get an agent that'll work with me? What's the typical agent that's going to work with me? And you guys, if y'all have questions for these exceptional agents and brokers who work with investors, let's have them. We're going to get to those too. So how do I increase my chances of finding someone who is right for me?
Well, I think you start with looking for somebody that invests themselves. So like to Craig's point before about going to real estate clubs and things like that, that definitely helps, because if you have somebody that invests themselves, then they understand usually a different aspect of things. If you are looking at listings and you're looking for people who list things like sub-2 properties, we have a lot in the Phoenix area right now, a lot of properties that right in the description, it'll say sub-2 offers available or open to and things like that. So then call those agents and have some conversations with them, because they at least know enough about it to put it in the remarks. And clearly their broker is acceptable of it. But then what I think it really takes is building a relationship. You know, on a typical day, I'll get 3 to 5 texts from people who just came out of a real estate seminar and heard my name, and now they want me to, you know, write offers for them and do comps for them and everything else. And it's like, you do have to kind of ignore those, to your point earlier about not getting responses, because otherwise it could take a ton of your time. But if somebody came into town or called me up and said, hey, I'm going to take you to lunch, I'm an investor, I'm looking for somebody like yourself who has experience in working with deals, I don't want to get my license myself, I want to build a long-term relationship, and I get to know you, and I know that you're on the up and up, that's a totally different story than a random text from somebody that I've never met or has never seen the house saying, hey, I want to make an offer on this house. You know, it's two totally different perceptions that I'm coming at it from. And you should be when you're looking for an agent to work with you.
Right. So it's a lot like working with sellers. And we say this all the time, a random text is a lot less likely to get you somebody to work with than trying to actually make contact, get face to face, let somebody know who you are.
Yeah, you got to build rapport. I mean, agents are no different than investors or sellers. I mean, in order for them to work hard for you, they want to feel a part of your team. Paint the vision for them, show them what you're going for, run your agent relationship the way you would run a team, and include them in that team so that they know what you're trying to achieve and how they can be a part of that. And then they're going to feel like they're a little bit more invested in it and want to work for you a little harder.
Yeah. Because go ahead, Craig.
I was thinking of something else. So, Courtney, you answered the question of how do I find that investor, and we talked about the investing club. And as I was sitting here, I started scribbling down. I thought, well, how do we find? Like a lot of times, that course they'll talk about building a buyer's list, and they'll tell people to go on PropStream, find cash buyers. And it occurred to me, I said, you know, where you might be able to start is anytime I've had a listing where it was bought by an investor and it was cash. Well, the agent representing that cash buyer was working with an investor, right? So as I sit here and think about it right now, I'm like, well, shoot, you could go through the MLS and find anything that was a cash deal and start calling the buyer's agent that was repping them, because they were probably working with investors, and they could either be a buyer's agent, or if they have a listing, work with them. And then the other one you had mentioned was doing a search for sub 2. I would also think that if you did a search for contract or cash, that a lot of times the listing agent, because they'll say, you know, no mortgage, cash only, or contract sale, you can be pretty confident that that agent is at least aware of working with investors. And that might be a good place to start. Just to answer the question, I hadn't thought about that till just now. It's obvious, but
yeah, for sure. One of the things I do when I go into a new market right away, is go to the HUD site. So I'll go to HUD.gov, because a lot of times the people who are listing HUD homes are people who work with investors. And so whenever I go into a new market, that's the first place I kind of start, is by going to that site and looking to see who's listed those properties.
That is a great suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good way to find those people who are likely working with a lot of investors. So they're likely a little bit more educated on the concepts. They're not going to be those immediate, hey, that's illegal type of people. They still may not be your person, but at least it's a good place to kind of start.
Right. I agree. I mean, what agent that's out there wouldn't want a client that may bring them a dozen or 2 dozen deals a year to get paid on?
Right.
Really, you know, even
don't understand it,
unless they're just, I'm telling you, we run into some of these that are so hardcore, man, what you're doing is illegal and you're going to go to jail, and they're so certain.
You know what I like to do is I like to take an image of like a HUD settlement statement and circle a part that says we can subject to existing mortgage. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, really. You ask them that, and that's when you get the silence, you know, the crickets. You know, are you familiar with a HUD or an Alta? Do you ever see one? It's right there, you know, 502 and both sides existing.
Funny, because when I first got my license in the class, the instructor actually told the class that subject to was illegal. And I'm like,
really? I'll tell you another thing that gets you the crickets. Can you please show me the statute? Show me in the law where it says you can't do this.
Even the wholesaling, yeah.
Right.
And the argument you might hear would be, well, it's mortgage fraud. right? Because it says in there's a due on sale clause, right? So
Okay.
if there's a due on sale clause, therefore you're not in compliance with the contract, therefore it's illegal or mortgage fraud. It's not, because it's no more illegal or mortgage fraud to not pay your mortgage, right?
Right.
Because it's a term of a contract. I agree to pay my mortgage in return for the loan. Well, if I choose not to, those steps are foreclosure. Same with change of title or whatever else.
If you close 2 days later,
Yeah.
or something, it's not illegal to close 2 days late.
Yeah.
Not illegal. Like, it might be against a contract, but it's not
Exactly.
illegal. That's right.
And even the due on sale clause, and that, I mean, I've been doing this so long, and I'm sure Courtney, you guys that have been doing this, Courtney's been doing it longer than I have. It's not even an issue for you anymore. You don't even think about that anymore. I mean, you're aware it's there, but I mean, the way that's written, I mean, I even screenshotted that and I use that in the presentation. It says, if any interest in the property is sold, the lender may, at their option, call the loan due and payable. At their option. It doesn't even say we will. It says, well, we might if we decide.
Exactly.
That's pretty wishy-washy right there. And I don't know about you, Courtney. I've never had one called due.
I've never had one called, knock on wood, but
Knock
no.
on wood, man.
I
Yeah.
have a question for you. I recently called my mortgage company to get rid of my escrow.
Mhm.
And the first question they asked me is, what is your intention with the property? What are you going to be doing with the property? And I just said nothing. I just want to hold my money.
Say it's none of your business.
Yeah, that would have been my answer too, Jodi. None of your damn
I don't know
business.
I don't know if that's a new thing that they're doing to like put like notes on your account if to watch. I don't know.
I assume any conversation you have with a mortgage company, they're putting notes in there. I know they're constantly trying to update contact information routinely. When we call with a seller,
Even though they don't do it.
they'll ask, well, you said you were behind on payments because of a job loss. Is that still the case? Or you were? I mean, they're asking all kinds of questions. So they're trying to keep up. But that is a strange question, though. What's your intention?
Yeah. If I'm going to sell it, what am I going to do with it?
I mean,
I'm not going to sell it.
If I can remove my escrow when I have paid down a certain amount of principal, that's my right to do it, regardless of what I'm going to do.
What did you answer him, Marcia?
She asked me, I said nothing. I just said nothing. She asked me, what am I going to be doing with the property? And I said nothing.
Oh my gosh.
Didn't ask me anything else.
Crazy. Okay. So do we have any questions? We've been in here for a while. This is super information.
Listening.
Let's see. I think I see a question here. I don't know if we have any from earlier. Arnie actually has a question down here about IRS code. It's actually in the IRS code what you have to do on a subject to property. I don't know about that, Arnie, but you'd have to educate me on that about what we have to do. I bought subject. I don't know exactly what you're saying. I bought subject to and sold it with seller financing. Actually, I'm living in one that we bought this past year. Subject to. We've leased them, rented them, Section 8 rented them. We've done a ton of stuff. I've never seen anything about what we have to do on a sub 2 property. So tell us some more about that.
Well, there's another one in there, William. It talks about somebody who's talking about getting an entitlement back for a VA loan when they do a sub 2. There is a provision in the VA loan, the lender. I see Sam doing this. I think he knows. I think as well. But something about basically there's a one-time allowance where you can actually get your entitlement restored.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to go through it again. I don't remember the exact wording, but there is an opportunity to get your entitlement restored even while you still own or have an outstanding mortgage on that property over there.
Right. I know for a while, Craig, and you're a vet and an agent. You may be more up on this than I am. And I knew about this years ago, unless it's changed, that there's actually a provision in VA loans where the veteran can sell that property on a contract for deed without a due on sale violation. Right. And they did that to allow them, because many times veterans have little to no equity. We routinely see it. They purchase the house for $300,000, they finance $320,000. So they roll all their costs and everything in it. So, and if they get orders and they got to move and they can't sell the house, then they have an out without having to be a landlord. Is that still the case?
So it's funny. I was just reading about the VA loan handbook yesterday, and I remember seeing something that rhymes with what you just said. So I'm looking. I'm just give me a few minutes. You guys keep talking. I'm going to look.
Okay. So
I just actually closed a client that bought with VA. And that was a nightmare. But I'm going to look through her paperwork,
right,
to see if there is a due on sale, and I'll let you know.
Well, what they did was they did that to make it easier for a veteran to sell their, to dispose of their house in some way without having to worry about a loan being called due. So they made that easier. Let's see. It's considered
years ago, I mean, this is probably 10 plus years ago, we had taken over a property sub 2 that was a VA loan, and the VA came back. He had been shipped overseas. He came back and he wanted to buy another house. And because we had taken over his property sub 2, there was issues. Well, I just got on the phone with them. And I mean, it did take a while. It wasn't a simple situation, but I explained everything to them. I sent them the copies of all the HUD ones from when we purchased it. I sent them, several year records of checks that we had sent and all that. And I just said, look, it's not his house anymore. It's my house. And so they actually, I don't know if they gave him a new entitlement or how that works. I don't know what that means, but I know he was able to buy another house.
Right. It's interesting. And I believe this based on, I'm hearing things like this and what Craig just said, Marcia, that the VA tries to work with people. They understand, they're serving our country. They deserve a break. We've got actually a student in sub 2 max that is in the military. She's a doctor. And because of some circumstances, they actually gave her a third VA loan. And a lot of times it really goes back to, a lot of times you just have to ask and explain.
Right.
And people will try to work with you on some things. So I guess we need to be reminded of that every once in a while. What I see in a lot of groups is people worry so much about trying to hide something from a lender. Listen, we do everything short of sending them a letter saying, listen, this is what we just did. Now, we don't do that. But, we put our property in a trust, but every property we buy goes into a trust, even if that's not some kind of slick way of due on sale protection. If I buy a house, it's going in a trust because I like trust, and that's a story for another day. But we do that. We change the insurance. We start either wiring funds or sending checks with our company name. Hey, we're out there, okay?
Right.
They're on notice, and they cash those checks and they take those wires, and they never say a word. It's easy to see somebody else is making payments now. We make payments out of our bank account. It changes. I don't think due on sale is a big issue. Let me ask this. Let me jump back to how to work with agents. I get this question all the time. People they'll say, I'm trying to buy this house remotely. I don't have boots on the ground. I always recommend agents as one of the sources. What is fair compensation? If I call you guys up, Marcia, Sam, Craig, Courtney, if I call you up and I go, hey, Courtney, I got a house out here in Phoenix that I'm looking at. I need some pictures. I need somebody to go by and do something. What should I offer you? What's fair to get you to do something like that for me, if you would be willing?
Yeah, I think the best thing, and what I always tell people is, base it on what banks are paying people to do like REO inspections. And if you can come up with that number, which like in our market right now is around 200 to 250, then at least that's commonplace to what they're used to hearing. So you're not coming, I mean, I've actually had people just expect me to do it because they may possibly buy a house from me at some point in the future. And it's like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I mean, I wouldn't do it anyway, but that's why I have this team, so actually ask something fair and can, what's that?
No, I was gonna say, we actually asked somebody before too, and they actually said, don't worry about it because they just were hoping to get the listing.
Exactly. And I think that's exactly right. If you, at least if you offer up front, where it's then that person might be like, no, if you're looking at that, I'm gonna be over that way anyway. No worries, I'll take care of it. but at least you're offering. It goes
Right.
back to what we were talking about early on. You're not just expecting them to do everything for free.
Right. And that's
Sent him a little something, even though he said no.
right.
Right.
Yeah, we did.
For goodwill, in case we needed him again.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's right. I mean, we ultimately didn't buy that house.
No.
But he offered to do it for nothing. But we out of the gate said, what would you charge us to run by and do this? And he could have said $250, or he could have said $50 or whatever, and you make a determination at that point. So again, it goes back to just asking, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah.
Just ask the question.
Having the conversation, if you've asked them to run comps for you on 20 different properties and you haven't done anything, and now all of a sudden you want them to go do this, they might have a different mindset than if you've just randomly called them out of the blue. If you've had great conversations and built some rapport,
Right.
and they know that you're trying to find the right thing, then that's a completely different perspective for them to go out there and do that. They're trying to help you find a deal because they want to get paid and they want to work with you. So
Right.
it all goes back to building that rapport and being honest and upfront and having those conversations.
Right.
You're saying
Hey,
agents.
Courtney, I got a question for you.
Exactly. Agents are people too.
Yeah, who knew?
Hey, Courtney, I got a question for you. Let's say that I'm an investor and I call you up, like you just said, and go, hey, I want you to, go look at this and do this. Are you going to ask me to sign a buyer broker agreement?
No, not right away. I mean, it just depends. I like to get to know people. Of course, I've been in the business a long time, so I really only choose to work with the people I want to work with. Everybody else I give to someone on my team. But for me, I don't want to ask somebody to sign a buyer's broker till I know I want to work with you.
Right.
For me, I'm interviewing you more than you're probably interviewing me, because I'm like, if I'm going to be having a long-term relationship with somebody, I want to know that they're going to do business correctly and that they're not going to be a pain in the rear end. They're not going to call me at 12 o'clock at night on a Sunday. And, those types of, they understand I have a life as well. But I think it's about building that rapport and being honest and upfront.
I will tell you, I'll be a little bit different on that, in the sense that if you called me up and said, hey, can you go do this? I'm going to say, well, first let's get on a Zoom call. Let's get to know each other, or meet in person over coffee before. I don't just, like, I'm not a person who gets Zillow leads or anything else. I don't meet random buyers at a property before we've established a relationship. So I will actually say, hey, if you want to do this, I'm going to commit to you, you commit to me. I will actually do that. I will say, hey, let's put some pen to paper and make an agreement. And we'll talk about some outs. We'll talk about some guarantees. And then, you know what, if they're serious, they'll be like, all right, let's get on the Zoom. Let's meet for coffee. And if you're a serious investor and you find an agent that says, hey, let's go meet for coffee, take them up on it. Because that's worth doing. Because I think most agents are going to be a little, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but a little.
You're not wrong, Craig. I agree wholeheartedly with you, because I've wasted so much time with people.
Right.
Wasted time, gas, energy, brain cells, all that.
Yeah.
Especially when you were new, right? You were like, I need business. I knew. And you're wasting an entire weekend on it. Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. And just a reminder to everybody, we're talking to an exceptional group of agents and brokers here. Okay. These aren't the people you're going to run into every day on the street. They already work with investors. They do creative finance themselves. They understand how it works, but you're looking for these people. Okay. So go ahead.
I got a question. So Courtney said something really interesting. She said, I'm interviewing you.
Mm-hmm.
Courtney, what are you looking for?
Yeah, actually, I'm doing a training class for my agents a little bit later on this. So I actually want to make sure that they have some knowledge, that they didn't just come out of a no money down buying seminar and they're out trying to find that agent that's going to work for them. And they really have, let's be real, 80 to 90% of these people are never going to take action, even if the perfect deal falls in their lap, right? Because they're gonna let fear get in the way. They're gonna talk themselves out of it. They're gonna overthink it. All the things that people do. So I'm looking for that person, and like exactly what Marcia just said. I want to make sure that they're gonna actually pull the trigger, which is why I don't ask them to sign a buyer's broker right away. Right. It's like, I just want to get to know them a little bit. So I'll ask them questions about their business model. How do they run their business? What specifically are they looking for? If they're giving me the standard text that I know that all of these seminars are teaching and all of these YouTube videos and everything are teaching, then I know they haven't actually ever done anything. And if they haven't ever done anything, then not only, and I mean, I guess everybody deserves their start. I get it. But
Yeah,
then
so-
not only do I have to find them the right property, but I have to get them over the hump of being afraid of doing that. And so then I have to decide, is it worth working with this person? Because this is going to be a lot of extra effort,
Right.
you know?
So do you pass them on to somebody else? Where do they go? You know, if they're new and you don't want to work with them, where do they go?
Yeah, it honestly depends. So what I'll usually do is I'll just say something to them like, you know, if let's say I get a feel that they're brand new, then I might just say to them, you know what, I don't really have the capacity right now to take on any new clients myself, but I am training a team of 10 people and I can pass you on to one of those people just so you know they're in daily communication with me. So they are going to be getting help and support.
Okay.
And if there's something that they run across that they don't know or understand, they know how to access me and get the answers immediately. So that's what I typically tend to do, which makes it really easy to kind of pass that on to them.
Right.
So
Because when I started too, that same thing happened. I you know, I was like, went to an agent and he just pretty much laughed me off. And I was just like, and I really would like to go back to him now, but.
So I will say this to make a point on what Courtney just said, and actually got a comment here from Kevin on the same topic. I've been doing this 25 years. Jodi's been doing it for 15 years. We bring a lot of experience and hundreds of deals to the table and know how to do a lot of stuff. And it's still hard for us to find the Courtneys and the Craigs and the Marcels and the Sams out there and to weed through those. A new investor, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just like it's just hard for Courtney to find somebody that she feels is, you know, up to that level. That's the same for the other side. You know, like we have to find that.
Right.
Well, just to put it in
2%,
perspective, it
2%.
was so hard for me to find an agent that was the right mesh for me that I went and got my license. Right.
That's why I've got my license back.
That's why I got mine way back. Yeah, for sure.
That's why I got mine too. That's
So
why I got
everybody
mine.
got something common.
Listen, all of y'all. See, I was so hard-headed. I said, I'm not doing it.
Whatever. You had your previous wife go get it instead. Same thing.
That's right. I did. I had my ex-wife. She went and got her license, and after you know, and then she came. I'll tell you, the day she passed her test and came home, she threw all that stuff on my desk and she said, "I'm done with this now. You do what you're going to do with it."
I do think though that part of what you guys are going through right now is specific to the area. I mean, let's be real. There are parts geographically of the country that are a little slower to adopt new things.
Right.
And when I moved to Knoxville, so I'm in Arizona now, but I spent 15 years in Knoxville. And that is exactly what Craig just said. The reason I ended up getting my license was because I moved there and couldn't find anybody that could do what I needed to do. So I got my license. And then when I moved back to Arizona, it made sense for me to get my Arizona license. I do think that there's parts of the country where people are slower to adopt things. People are more stuck in the old ways. And definitely, you know, the area that you guys are in is one of those areas where it's like, if they had it their way, we'd still be doing things the good old boy way, you know, for the next 200 years, you know.
MLS would still be in little books that came out.
Exactly. Those big, huge, massive books we used to get delivered. And by the time they came, they were already out of date.
And you said something earlier that really speaks to what you just said. You're in Phoenix, Arizona. We're one of the biggest marketers of sub 2 ever is right there. And that's why you're seeing all these listings sub 2 options, because that's all they talk about out there.
Oh,
so
yeah, for sure.
That's why you're seeing that.
Yeah, which is why a lot of realtors don't want to have those conversations because they're getting 5-10 of those calls a week, you know, and emails and, you know, everything. You get bombarded with it.
Right.
Well, how many, if I could ask the other agents, how many calls do you field in your market every week, month, day, whatever, from an investor looking to work with you?
How about Sam? Sam hasn't talked much.
Yeah. Okay. So so I'm actually I work predominantly with investors because I know it's a smaller market here. So if a new investor just come in the market, we have a network of like investors, Facebook group that at some point we've make encounter, we've correspond with each other or what have you, or communicate So usually I'm, how often do I get new investors? It's just like just finding new investors that's looking for a deal or starting deals. That I, that's how we get connected.
Mhm. Okay.
New investors, new people want to
Right.
get
So,
into this
so you
space.
work primarily with investors. That's almost all you do.
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
because I love the idea of like not the emotional part of things. It's like
Mhm.
if I show you a house, if the number works, it works. If it doesn't work, you say we're gonna move to the next one. You have an investor who walk through a house within the next 3 5 minutes, you already know what could be wrong with the house. You already have the number in your head. It's like, oh,
Right.
you can tell me, oh, this house will work or otherwise. And that for me, that's great. If you tell me no,
Right.
this awesome. That means this is not the right one. We're gonna
So
go find the right one.
you have enough investors. You're out there in Wichita, did you say? So you have enough
Yes.
investors to keep you busy in Wichita?
Yeah, yeah. We have a very good, investor space here, and
Mhm.
I could be, this could be I could be sentimental here, but I think Wichita market is one of the hidden gem
Mhm.
when it comes to like national market. Like I just,
Yeah.
I could be wrong,
Yeah.
because I just think anything is going on. People go to Oklahoma, they go to Kansas City,
Right.
Missouri part, and they just skip over Kansas. And
Okay.
I was like, man, we got some, and they look at numbers like we can get you that here
Mhm.
Yeah.
and some,
Right.
So, but it's just, I guess that's just part of it. People just look over Kansas.
Right. Okay, Marcia, how many calls a week you get?
In a week, I would say maybe two every other week
Mhm.
or one every other week. I had a listing on that REI Club
Mhm.
website. I don't know if you're familiar with that
Right.
website. And going back to Craig's point, all, every one of those calls would be new investors or new people that
Mhm.
just went through a seminar.
Yeah.
Right.
And I, talked to them, asked them, certain questions, and some, they give the textbook, you know, answers. And some of them I'll put them on a drip email,
Mhm.
for investment properties,
Right.
and then never hear from them again.
Right. So you see those calls increase when somebody does a seminar in town or in the
Yeah. For sure.
when the seminars come through, then all of a sudden there's a bunch of bandit signs and all kind of stuff happening out there. I know for sure. So Courtney, how many are you getting a week?
I would say about 5 to 10 on a regular basis.
Because again, you're in
But
that.
I am in the guru capital of the world. Yes.
Hey, all the gurus actually live in
Yeah,
Arizona.
yes.
I noticed that. Yeah.
All of
Some
them.
of them some of them are migrating out to Florida now, though. You notice that, Marcia?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's slowing down. I mean, the property prices here are just insane, and the subject twos are not what they used to be here, only
Right.
because we have two issues that's preventing them from getting like market rent or market whatever.
Right.
The insurance issue that we have here and the tax, property tax issue, more so the insurance issue.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Because
Yeah.
you go from $3,500 a year to 10,000.
Right.
Suddenly you're upside down
I
within
know.
months.
Insurance. You couldn't get me to buy houses in Florida. And plus the
It's
foreclosure takes a year or two out there.
It's crazy.
I
My
agree.
insurance went from 2,500 to 5,200, all in the span of maybe like 7 months.
We
They made me do, the 4-point inspection,
right.
reassess, and of course they came and found everything wrong with my house.
Yeah.
We put a skylight thing, so they dinged me for that. I had to pay them $610 extra just for that.
Right. Our house we closed on yesterday, it's worth it's a lower end house for here. It's about 225. You know what my quote for insurance was?
What?
1,300. How about that? So why do all the gurus live where you are, Courtney? Do you bring all the gurus to town?
No, it's just great weather. I mean, 9 months out of the year, it's perfect. And we have, I think, more golf courses than any other state. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But the other 3 months out of the year, you have to stay in the house to keep from baking, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. But, 3 months out of the year is not bad.
That's
And
not
you
bad.
can always get on an airplane and head somewhere else.
Okay. All right, let's do this. We've been on almost an hour now. 30 seconds, guys. 30 seconds. We're going to start with Marcia, work our way around. Ladies first. What if I'm a new investor and I want to work with you? Tell me in 30 seconds what my best options are to get you to call me and do something with me. Go, Marcia.
Okay. Well, first question. Well, one of the biggest questions is how, what's your financial situation, look like, how much experience do you have and how long you've been, doing it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you're going to ask those questions and decide if you want to work with me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've come to that point. Yes.
Awesome. Courtney?
Oh, good. She'll work with us.
Yeah.
I'm in with Marcia.
Yeah. Pick up the phone and call me. I mean, I want to talk to you. I think there's so much that's missed in texting. I love hearing people's tones of their voices. I can tell if they're confident. I can tell if they're an ass. I can tell if they know what they're talking about. People are so afraid to pick up the phone and call anymore, but pick up the phone and call me. Let's have a conversation. Let's get to know each other. And then I'm going to work harder for you than any agent you're going to find. But I want to know that you're going to respect my time and my experience as well. So I think it's all about creating a mutual relationship.
You bet. Stop the texting.
Yes.
I can say the sweetest thing in a text and sound like a jerk.
Exactly.
I mean,
Because they text and they interpret it based on the mood they're in at that moment.
Right.
When they're receiving it, it's their perception. And so it's like you can read it and be like, what a jerk, when you meant it, you sent it as something really nice. So it's like, pick up the phone and call people.
It's so funny things. And first of all, and then what you're saying, when somebody calls you, you're automatically impressed because they didn't just text you. And my goodness, after a conversation, write a thank you card.
Yes, for sure.
What a wow that is now.
Yeah.
Something like that, not an email. Awesome. Okay. Craig, how can I work with you? I'm a new investor. I see your name. I see your card. How do I get in with you?
Well, it's funny. Courtney stole my thunder. Pick up the phone, call me. Don't text me. Don't email me. Don't LinkedIn me. Don't Facebook Messenger me. Those are the quickest ways for me to go, hey, there it is. And if you text me and I go to hit a response and I see the little green arrow, I'm assuming it's a CRM and that you just went to a course, right? But if you pick up the phone, it's a person, boom. I'm already impressed, just like you said, because you are now in the 1%ers,
Right.
and because you got to talk to somebody at some point. Just pick up the darn phone. Once you do that, I would like you to call me about a specific property. Hey, William, this is Craig. I am a new investor. I've never done this before. However, I'm looking on Zillow. I see 123 Main Street. This is what I know about it. Would you be interested in presenting an offer for me under these terms? Boom. Guess what? I'm suddenly very interested because you've done your homework and you did not show up with a phone call that said, hey, I want to do seller financing or sub 2. What do you got?
Or I want to start real estate investing.
I want to.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, unless I know you already and you're part of a referral from me, that's the call I'll take. But if you're just a cold call, that one's going to be hard because you sound like all the other 100 people that are wasting all of our time. That's it.
Be different. Be different.
Be different.
Sam, how I'm a new investor. I'm in your town. How can I work with you?
Yeah. So for me, it's about integrity, right? You want to do this business not just because you watch a YouTube video and you just say, oh, that sounds cool. I can just do it and make some buck. You actually want to do this in a long time. Saying typically people that want to do that, they're building their business on integrity. They're building their business on, being trustworthy because they know they're gonna be here for a long time. So I'm looking for someone like that will, because that's where on my hand, that's where I want to create a relationship with you that it will now become a team. So that so now we form a team. We know this is how we have that in common. that to not want to screw someone over too,
Right.
because at the end of the day, I just believe we can repeat business and we can go a long way too. You can do a lot of business, right? Coming from integrity. So that's for me. I just usually, and like what Courtney said earlier about, let's have conversation. Let's meet one on one so I can feel who you are, what you're trying to accomplish, and that's the way we can work together.
Excellent. Sam, how can someone get in touch with you in Wichita to work with you?
I have and give a phone number or
If you want
email
to,
or
that's
whatever.
fine. Phone, email, whatever's best.
Yeah, I can give my email. It will be samadidire@kw.com.
Okay, awesome. Craig, best way for somebody to get in touch with you?
Probably just go to my website, craigsnyderteam.com. First name, last name, team.com, and you can just plug it in there, and I'll respond. My phone number's there. It's right on it. That's my iPhone right there in the top. You just pick it up and call me. That's probably the best right there.
No CRM. It goes straight to your phone. You answer it.
Straight to my phone. There it is.
Imagine that. Oh my gosh. Courtney, how about you? How can they get in touch with you out there in Phoenix, Arizona?
Yeah, pretty much Investor Chick anywhere. So on Instagram, I'm at Investor Chick. My link tree is Investor Chick. You can also just hit me up on any of those messaging apps, and I'll check those out, and then we can talk from there.
Sounds great. Marcia, how can they get in touch with you? West Palm Beach and any other area that I need to be saying?
Well, Palm Beach County.
Palm Beach County. Okay.
But you can go straight to my website, get my phone number, see me and everything. It's liveinpalmbeach.com.
Liveinpalmbeach.com. That's a great website. Good for
Great
you.
website, yeah.
Yeah. Hey guys, thanks so much. We got comments here. Dana Dane just shared a comment. Great conversation. Thank you for the wisdom and knowledge shared amongst this panel of experts. I agree. This was great. Getting started, having an agent, a broker can really help your business. It can make things a lot simpler, but getting in sometimes, especially when you're new,
It's tricky.
Tough. And I'll tell you from my experience, even if you've been doing it for a while, it can be tough.
I have a question really quick, and then because I know you have to go.
Sure.
Question: when you close your deals, you do a remote notary closing, right?
You can.
Sometimes we do.
Okay. The reason I ask is because I'm also a notary. I'm a Ron. So, and I know that sometimes when you send your documents out to some notaries, they, throw bad, words out to the person signing. Sure, you really want to do that type of thing? So just to let you, I do that.
Sure. So, okay. So if you got a closing out there, you can call Marcia, and Marcia will present your paperwork in a favorable manner, is what you're saying.
Exactly. And I do the remote online notary, so I can do it anywhere.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Okay.
That is great. Good information. Hey guys, all of y'all, appreciate y'all. I mean, I'm telling you, if you're watching this later, if you're not on here asking questions, get in contact with these guys if you're in their area. These are all exceptional people and agents and brokers that are already versed in what we do. It can really, there's tons to be learned from these guys, especially if you're newer. They can teach you and you work together and just really benefit each other. So we appreciate y'all for being here today. Let's do it again sometime because we get a ton of questions about agents all the time.
Sounds
so
good.
Y'all have a great day. Glad you didn't have a fire for me.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Thanks so much. And we'll see you guys later.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.
Okay, so let's see how to manage all of this.
Help everyone out there.
All right, so that's it, guys.
Well,
Man, great.
That was awesome.
That was awesome.
I want to work with all of them.
I know, man. I want to start buying houses in Virginia Beach and
That's right.
and Wichita, Kansas, and out in Arizona even. So we can work with all of them. So
they had really good suggestions. I'm glad we had that.
What it comes down to, it's just like they said, it's really a personal touch communication, and understand that it's a numbers game. It's just like with your sellers. Every agent's not going to be open. You're not going to convince them.
Right.
They're already going to know some stuff, or they're not. And that's just the way
They're either right or wrong. It's like finding a date for,
Mhm.
like finding a spouse or something.
right.
You got to
For
find
sure.
the right one. You can't make one into something it's not.
Yep, for sure. So I guess that's it for today. You guys subscribe to the channel. We do something like this almost every week, and release videos as well at sub2tv.com. We'd love to have you subscribe. We'd love to have you join us on a regular basis. And I guess we'll be back next Tuesday. So you guys have a great day. Get out there, talk to some sellers,
And buy some houses.
all right.